All the Young Dudes by MsKingBean89, Chapter 110, 6th Year, 17. Thursday, 10th March 1977. Happy birthday, Remu! Three gangly, noisy, highly excitable teenage boys jumped onto Remus's bed at the crack of dawn. It was not the same as when they were 11. For one thing, Remus's legs were a lot longer. For another, they were all much heavier. "Get off, you wankers," Remus grumbled. "What time is it?" "Time is immaterial," James said, wearing a brightly coloured pointed party hat. "It's your birthday." "Your 17th birthday," Sirius added, wearing a polka dot party hat at a rakish angle on his head. "You're of age," Peter said, lunging at Remus with a fourth hat, snapping the elastic under his chin. Remus glared at them all, stony-faced. "You're not going to make me wear this all day, aren't you?" They nodded, all three, in perfect unison, the streamers on their conical headwear bobbing and flashing in the dull morning light. "It's impervious to water," Sirius explained cheerfully, "so you can even shower with it on." He winked, and Remus hoped he wasn't blushing. Sirius had been in his bed only hours before, for a very different reason, and Remus was finding the quick transitions harder and harder to deal with. Only half an hour later, Remus had showered, hat still firmly on his head, opened about 50 birthday cards, wishing him many happy returns. "I didn't think I knew 50 people," and eaten a generous slice of Mrs. Potter's chocolate cake. "And you'll get your proper present later," James said, cryptically, "at the party." "You lot are mad," Remus said, as they filed down into the common room. "You shouldn't go to all this trouble." "Shut up, Mooney," Peter said, good-naturedly. "Happy birthday, Remus," the girls chorused in the dining hall. They were all wearing party hats too, apparently thanks to Lily's persuasiveness. "Nice one, Evans," James winked at her, giving her a sly nod with his elbow. "Knew you wouldn't let the side down." "Oh, bugger off, Potter," she elbowed him back, looking very pleased and a bit flushed. The usual three-round rendition of Happy Birthday accompanied Remus's birthday breakfast, and he was so used to it by now that he even stood up and gave a shy bow once they'd finally finished. Then the hours arrived. There was a card from Ferox, which was unexpected. Remus hadn't been sure if they were still on speaking terms after their last meeting. There was also a note from Dumbledore. He cracked the cherry-red seal quickly under the table and read it as fast as possible. "Mr. Lupin, many happy returns for the day. I understand we have a few things to discuss. Please present yourself at the headmaster's office at 4 p.m. this afternoon. Sincerely, Albus Dumbledore." "Here we go," he sighed under his breath. Sirius, who had an annoying habit of reading over his shoulder, leaned in. "Do you want someone to go with you?" Remus shook his head, but smiled at Sirius, trying to be kind. "Nah, thanks for offering, but I think it's better if I do it alone." Sirius nodded, looking troubled all the same. The day passed slowly, the meeting with Dumbledore lurking at the end of it like some malevolent spider. Remus tried imagining the scenario over in his head, coming up with a script, or at least something coherent to say in his defence of his wild demands. Nothing came to him, and at 3:45 p.m. that afternoon, he found himself walking to the headmaster's office very slowly indeed. He'd been mad to even suggest this in the first place. No one else needed a reason to open the war effort. James would never do it. But then, Remus supposed, there was nothing James wanted that Dumbledore could give him, unless Dumbledore held the key to Lily Evans's undenying love. He found the staircase already open, and ascended just as slowly, remembering only at the very last minute to rip the party hat from his head. "Good afternoon, Mr. Lupin. Happy birthday." Dumbledore was sitting at his desk, as usual. This time he wasn't writing letters. He was waiting patiently, a benign smile on his face. "Thanks," Remus replied, warily, sitting down in the chair opposite. He thought for a moment before saying, "Do you mind just calling me Remus?" "As you wish," Dumbledore nodded. He seemed to be in good humour. "How does it feel, coming of age?" "It's okay. I have a few things for you sent on to me from Mrs. Orwell." "Matron?" "Indeed," Dumbledore gestured at his shoebox, which seemed to have appeared on the large mahogany desk out of thin air. "I believe there are a few items in there which belong to you, which were held in a trust at St. Edmund's." Oh, wow. Remus touched the lid of the box, tentatively, but didn't open it. He wanted to be alone for that. There's also the matter of your inheritance. My what? Your father left a will. He left some provisions for your mother, and the rest to you. He was not a wealthy man, I should say, but nevertheless, his vault in Gringotts now belongs to you. Dumbledore pulled the key from his pocket and passed it across the desk. Remus held it in his hand and thought about Lyle, who had not been on his mind in some months. Thank you, he said, remembering his manners. And there are other legal matters as well, you know. Dumbledore clasped his hands in front of him, long slender fingers intertwined. He was waiting for a response. The register, Remus said. The register, the headmaster agreed. He pulled out a piece of parchment and pushed that across the desk too. It was a form. Ministry of Magic, Declaration of Lycanthropic Infection. Remus felt queasy. There was a dotted line at the bottom, awaiting the signature. He sat on his hands and looked at Dumbledore. What do you want me to do with it? Leo Ferox led me to believe that you already have a very good idea of what to do with it, Remus, the old man replied, his eyes serious. You are an adult. I leave it in your hands. Remus picked up the parchment immediately, held it up at eye level, and tore it clean and two. Dumbledore smiled again. Admirably done. Ferox told you something else, though, Remus said, trying to maintain eye contact, but finding it extremely difficult. Dumbledore was not like anyone else. He smelled just as strongly of magic as every other witch or wizard, but nothing else. He had no unique signifier at all. He did. I think perhaps you can anticipate my response. Remus felt something deflate inside of him, making room for the coming rage. So it's a no, he said, flatly. Dumbledore inclined his head, gently. Not entirely. A request for patience, perhaps. With respect, Remus heard the hardness in his own voice, and it surprised him, but made him braver. There isn't time for patience. There never is when one is young, Dumbledore replied, softly. Remus, I know how things must seem to you, believe me. You didn't see her. They're suffering, right now. Many people are suffering, Remus. You have spent precious little time in the wizarding world yet. Whose fault was that? Remus muttered fiercely. Dumbledore gave him a silencing glance. But once you have, you will see. You will understand why attitudes are a very long way from changing. What you are asking? What about what you're asking? Remus shouted, incandescent. Of Ferox, and Moody, and the Potters, and... I am asking for an enormous leap of faith, Dumbledore said, very loudly. He didn't shout. You couldn't call it shouting at all, but it was no longer kind. From many people, and I will keep asking until the war is won. That must be our focus for now. I want to win the war, Remus said, still trying to control his volume, as much as anyone, but I want something worth winning too. In time, when we have the resources, when we have the strength to fight another battle. I want a promise. I'm aware of that, Dumbledore said, his voice changing almost imperceptibly, a deep frown lining his forehead. I cannot give you one. Fine, Remus stood. Then I'm promising you. I'm not giving up. He was furious, and Dumbledore had the gall to smile at him. I would expect no less from Lyle Lupin's son. Remus wanted to scream, fuck you, but decided that as he'd already been disowned from one institution today, it was probably best to avoid any risk on expulsion. He grabbed the shoebox, turned, and marched out. Remus was practically blind with rage as he pelted down the spiral staircase from Dumbledore's office, shoebox under his arm, head bowed, so that he ran straight into Sirius waiting at the bottom. Whoa, Sirius said, pushing both hands against Remus's chest in an attempt to slow him down. What's up, Moony? What are you doing here? Remus snarled. Just waiting for you. I know you didn't want company, I just thought... Never bloody listen, Remus ranted, pushing past. Sirius grabbed his arm and wouldn't let go, allowing Remus to half-drag him along the corridor. I know, I'm terrible, he was saying, jogging slightly to keep up with Remus's longer strides. Never do as I'm told, do I? Keep shouting at me. I deserve it. Hey, wanna hit me? Remus stopped and looked at him, the mercurial grin on his face. That serious black grin. No, I don't want to hit you. Oh, good. Want to punch a wall? No, Remus carried on walking. A bit slower. Want to get stoned? No. Drunk? Maybe. Perfect, Sirius said. They were now walking at a regular pace towards the dining hall. Because I think that's what half the school has in mind after dinner. What's in the box? It's... Remus held it on both hands now. It wasn't very heavy. There couldn't be much. He could feel leaves of paper sliding around inside. Just some stuff I think my dad left to me. I'm not opening it till later. Sirius shrugged, easily. Fair enough. Sirius's general loveliness continued for dinner. Sausages and mash with onion gravy, until dessert, when Emmeline appeared. Remus had been halfway to a good mood when she showed up at the table and squeezed herself onto Sirius's lap. She kissed him, full on the mouth, for a long time. Happy birthday, Remus, she smiled politely, once they had finished. He nodded in response and set down his spoon. She didn't seem to notice. I'm so excited about the party, she said, generally, to the table. Should be good, James said, jovially. Mooney's birthdays always are. Why does everyone call you Mooney anyway? Emmeline asked, looking at Remus. He scowled at her. Not everyone, just my friends. She blinked and frowned, the creases in her brow marring her beauty, only momentarily. Sirius squeezed her waist. Hey, Em, why don't I meet you later? We've got some stuff to do to get ready. Okay, she smiled again. Remember your promise? She snugged him again. Promise? Remus asked, upstairs in the bedroom, 15 minutes later. James and Peter were overseeing the decorations in the common room, and Sirius had made up some excuse for not helping. What did you promise her? Oh, just that I'd walk her back to her common room after the party. Remus raised an eyebrow. Via the astronomy tower? Sirius laughed, unbuttoning his shirt to change. Maybe. Why? Nothing. Remus sat on his bed. The shoebox was still unopened, on his bedside. He wasn't going to look at it today. Maybe not even tomorrow. What about you and Mary? Sirius asked, selecting a clean black shirt from his messy chest of drawers. That thing finished now, or what? Yeah, Remus nodded, watching him. This is it, he thought. This is when you tell him. It was just an experiment, sort of. Do you know what I mean? Sirius murmured, more focused on buttoning up his shirt. What? Wasn't good? It was okay. Not as good as... He swallowed and said it fast. Not as good as when it's just you and me. Sirius looked up from his buttons, staring at Remus across the room. Remus was grateful for the distance. Sirius's expression was hard to read, so Remus pressed on. Is it like that for you? Sirius returned to his dresser, looking for jeans now. His back turned, he said quietly. Yeah. Pardon, Remus said, raising his voice. Sirius sighed, but didn't turn around. He closed the drawer, apparently deciding that the jeans he had on would do. I said yeah, it's better with you. Right. Remus was so surprised by this response that he couldn't think of anything else to say. Unfortunately, this gave Sirius an opportunity to speak instead. He turned, sweeping his long hair back over his head, casually. I suppose because we know each other so well, eh? Right. I'd better get down there and help before Prongs comes after me with the jelly legs, Jinx. We'll send Peter to get you when it's all ready. With that, Sirius disappeared down the stairs. 4 hours later, and Remus was well and truly drunk. Not drunk. Pissed. Bladdered. Troiled. Paralytic. He couldn't remember how much he'd had, and he didn't care. He was going to have a good time if it killed him. Fuck Dumbledore, fuck Greyback, Ferrex, Livia, Emmeline, and Sirius fucking Black. The party was in full swing, everyone now wearing a shiny pointy birthday hat, bopping along to the blaring music. Remus hadn't even minded the disco tracks. He staggered to his armchair and sank into it with yet another bottle of something lovely and strong. He was feeling very warm and very sleepy. Lazily, He allowed his gaze to wander to Sirius, chattering by the turntable. Ip slouched forward just so. Remus let himself stare for just a little bit. He was entitled. Their first kiss was exactly a year ago. It was a silly little anniversary, considering everything that had happened in between. But Remus felt a small purr of satisfaction all the same. Fucking prick. Him and Emmeline have been together for a while now, Lily said to Remus, coming to sit on the armrest. Her eyes were wide and unfocused. She had an easy smile. Remus carefully took control of his facial features and smiled back at her, as if he hadn't a care in the world. You sound surprised. Well, I am a bit. I didn't see him as the sort of bloke who wants a regular girl. Remus shrugged, because he couldn't speak without saying too much. Lily carried on regardless. And I know it sounds horrible, and I know he's your friend, so just tell me to shut up. But I did sort of think, that he's only going out with her to upset his family. What do you mean? Remus asked, taking a very long swig from his fire whiskey. Oh, Lily slurred, maybe even drunker than he was. Everyone knows that Black's on a weird crusade against his mum. Never goes with pure-blood girls. There was Mary. She started counting Sirius's conquests off on her fingers. She's muggle-born. Evangelina, Florence, Avini, now Emmeline. Might just be a coincidence. Remus was worried he might not be able to control his voice much longer. It was getting horribly high and nervous. Pfft, Lily laughed, spilling some of her own drink. Sirius Black never does anything by coincidence. It's all calculated with him. She chuckled to herself, raising a goblet up to her lips. He'd shag a vampire if there was one at Hogwarts. Remus stood up, very suddenly, knuckles cracking. Lily almost fell off the arm of the couch in fright. What's up? She asked, confused, looking blearily up at him. I'm going to be sick, Remus said, realising that he really was. He bolted away and up the stairs as fast as he could, and stumbled into the bathroom, just in time, retching into the toilet bowl. He rocked back on his ankles, sweating and cold. He'd drunk too much. Now he just wanted to lie down and sleep, and not think about anything. Remus brushed his teeth and washed his face in cold water. He felt less queasy, but no less sober. He pulled on his pyjama buttons and opened the door. Sirius was standing on the other side, leaning against his bedpost with his hands in his pockets. He looked so thoroughly himself. Their eyes met and held. Sirius spoke first. Came up to check you're all right. Remus closed the door behind him, stepping forward. Yeah, he replied, warily. Just a bit too pissed, that's all. Going to bed. Look, about the stuff I said, Sirius started. Remus braced himself, not sure what was coming. I'm really sorry, Sirius said, helplessly. I don't even know why I am, but I'm just sorry, okay? He placed a hand on Remus's shoulder, seemingly in an apologetic gesture. It was hot on Remus's bare skin, but he didn't shrug it away. He just hoped that they might finally part, and he could go to bed. Sirius would return downstairs to the party. But instead, Sirius kissed him. Feeling a fool, Remus kissed him back, hungrily, toothpaste and whiskey. Sirius pushed forward, stumbling slightly, and leaned heavily on Remus, gripping both his shoulders now. Remus pulled away, suddenly remembering what was wrong. You're drunk, he said. Yeah, Sirius slurred, grinning. So are you. Yeah, Remus agreed. He pulled back, leaving Sirius to balance by himself. He rubbed the back of his head. I don't think we should. I think you'll regret it. Since when do you care? Sirius spurred, leaning in again. Remus stepped back, sharply, pressing his hand to Sirius's chest to keep him at bay. No, Sirius. What about Emmeline? Sirius shook his head, dizzily, frowning. Fuck Emmeline, he grunted. Remus rolled his eyes. But you already do, don't you, Black? That's the problem. So, Sirius spoke slowly, mind foggy with drink. We have to stop our thing just because of her. Our thing? God, Sirius, you're unbelievable. What? Sirius. Emmeline's tipsy voice echoed up the staircase. "Where are you?" They both turned, looking down into the shadows. "You'd better go to," Remus said, walking over to his bed. Sirius followed him like a lost puppy, pulling at the waistband of his pyjamas needily. "Come on, just... No!" "Sirius, I'm coming to get you." Remus pushed him away one last time. "Go on, I don't want her up here." Sirius stared at him for a bit longer, drink still blurring his reactions, making him slow and stupid. "Okay, but I'll come back. We can talk." "No," Remus said again. "We've talked. It's over. Good night, Sirius."